This is Global Morning.
Right to know you're joining us here on Global Morning. I am Muyi Agmofwebe and my colleague Ramsey Enoch Agbo is also on the program.
Good morning, Mr. E.
Always a delight to be here.
Well, it is a rainy day.
It is.
Sometimes, before when we're growing up, we get very surprised when we see presenters on set, even when there's a heavy downpour. You'll be on your bed and you'll be watching them. You say, right. What magic is this? They slept in the office or something, or they have a
how does it happen?
How does it really happen? But now we are woken to the realities that we are now in the center of the whole thing.
Well, doing the magic
too. Well, it was a rainy day. I believe it has stopped, but probably in some parts of Abuja or its environ, it might still be drizzling.
Right.
But then that shouldn't stop you from going about your normal businesses.
Right, by all means.
I think people in Port Harcourt, Lagos are already used to this. I tell people rain in Port Harcourt and Lagos does not have season.
Right.
It rains almost all the time, in and out of season. So it's good to be here this morning.
Right. Like Ramsey said, the light on my end at about 4:30 this morning was, as I say, raining cat and dog. But then I realized that, you see, the rain shouldn't be an excuse, like you quite brilliantly highlighted. So the show must go on. That's what we say in broadcasting, and we're here to put the show on the road for you. Again, we appreciate you for making that very important decision to be with us here on Global Morning today. Well, a lot is happening across the country, especially in the area of politics and governance. For today, we are paying full throttle attention on 2 years of President Bola Tinubu administration, right? It's been 2 years of, some people say it's a roller coaster, right? But then we're going to look at this sector by sector, see what reforms have been rolled out, are being implemented, what results we've gotten from those reform efforts, especially in light of the renewed hope agenda, which is front and center of the Bola Tinubu government.
Well, I think some persons, I was privy to listen to one or two persons, and everybody have a perception about this, different perception about this administration.
Right.
Some persons will tell you, well, it's better than the previous administration. Some persons will tell you, we are on a journey, but we don't know when we will arrive at our destination. And some persons will tell you, well, there is a little improvement. Some persons will tell you, well, they can't really say anything until the hunger is being handled. Nigerians tend to forget so many things when the hunger is not there. Yeah, that's an average Nigerian for you. No matter the experience, no matter what they've gone through, the moment the hunger has been taken away, there is this praise-singing of the administration that brings that to
regardless of party or whoever is the president or governor.
Yeah, right. That's what Nigerians are actually craving for. We want to get back to that time where our money can actually have value. You know what happened to the Naira, as a matter of fact, and this is Nigeria. Whatever happens to the Naira, talking about the exchange now.
That's right.
It affects almost everything. Almost everything from the transportation sector. You get to the market. The market forces wholly rely on this exchange rate.
Right.
You could be surprised. I don't know, but for me, I was surprised actually when almost everything, even though they don't have anything to do with the dollars, but then for the high exchange rate, those things were also, the prices of those things also skyrocketed.
Right.
We're talking about fuel a few days ago, and someone was like, have we really felt the impact of the Dangote refinery? Because we're buying at a cheaper rate before the subsidy removal.
Right.
And one of the things that people felt would have cushioned the effect of this subsidy removal is reviving our refinery, which was the foremost things that were promised by this administration. In fact, that of Port Harcourt, the hope was so high. But it too amazes you that there is a shutdown at the Port Harcourt refinery right now because of one or two things. And the dramatic change in the NNPC board and all of that. And of course, the up and down of the prices of commodities in the market and that of the petroleum too. But one funny thing is this, Mr. Oye. When the price of this fuel dropped, you remember the 65 naira reduction.
Right.
It never reflected in the fares. You know, it never reflected.
Beyond the pages of newspapers.
Beyond the pages of newspaper. It never reflected. Then I keep asking myself this question. If there is a reduction and it doesn't reflect in the effect that the hike has caused, of what importance is the reflection?
The reduction.
Do we have people that enforce this reflection? That's one of the things a lot of people, you know, they ask us a lot of questions because people feel, well, you are there, you know better. You know, as journalists, you know, people feel we are the ones bridging the gap between the government and the people. So they tend to ask us a lot of questions. And sometimes you'll be dumbfounded. You wouldn't know what to say because this is a reality that you can't take away. There is a reduction. It's not reflecting. There are promises. We are not seeing the impact of the promises. Some persons will tell you, well, I don't know. I saw one CNG bus. Was it, since they've been talking about it, I saw one, I think, was it the day before yesterday also. And that's the one I've seen. That is in FCT. So we just need something to be done. But then, well, your analysis is as good as mine. So you can actually go ahead and do your analysis of the president's 2 years. I think this is more like a midterm. Let's do an assessment and see.
Yeah, that's apt. More like a midterm. I could also think that it's apt to realize that this is exactly 2 years since the, some people say, is the suspension of fuel subsidy payments.
Okay, suspension, not removal per se.
But it just simply means that there are no longer payments for subsidy as far as the petroleum industry is concerned. And now the government, I mean, that's at the federal level, says to us that states, subnationals, are now getting more money on account of, by way of monthly allocation than they were getting before now. In perspective, what they're saying is that states that used to get as low as 2-3 billion monthly as allocation of federation accounts are now doing as much as, upwards of 15 billion. So which means states are getting more money. And they say this comes from the savings, all right, associated with the fact that fuel subsidy payments have been lifted or suspended. Yeah. But the challenge now is, regardless of the volume of money that now goes to states, is the life of the average person in any state, whether they're in Borno, in Abia, in Bayelsa, in Lagos, all right, or wherever it may be, changed or improved. That's it. Because there's also the argument, which we believe very strongly is valid, that, look, we can't keep running to Abuja, crying to Abuja, and dragging the president over every little thing. The federal government can't do it all, and the constitution is clear, very clear in this regard. What are the states doing in terms of health, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of economy, in terms of empowerment of young people, for example? The states' governments have their work cut out for them as well. So who is having that conversation? At every opportunity, everybody is coming to Abuja to protest, to hold up placards. Something happens somewhere in Rivers State, you're coming to protest in Abuja. Something happens in Lagos, you're coming to protest in Abuja. Something happens in Adamawa, you're coming to protest in Abuja. And again, we probably should say it's laughable that some of these things rest with the state governments and these respective governors, which means that we must know where to turn at every point in time so that we know the person or the entity with whom we should sit with some problems. However, the issue of fuel subsidy removal is going to live with these governments the entire 4 years. because the conversation just keeps burgeoning, keeps expanding, and it keeps evolving. Because in Nigeria, they say when the price of petrol sneezes, all essential commodities catch cold, and that's where we are right now. Whether you're talking about cost of transportation, you're talking about health, of course, food inflation numbers jumping right through the roof, for example. All of these, again, are things for which we have the price of petrol to thank. Dangote Refinery, the last few weeks, has announced a reduction, the last one being 15 naira. But you asked a very brilliant question a while ago. To what extent has this reduction reflected in the socio-economic life, or if you like, the quality of life of the everyday Nigerian? Oil in itself, let's go back to the basics, ought to, yes, operative word, ought to be a blessing to us. But the question is, how much of a blessing or otherwise has it been? Yes, we are harnessing, we're drilling, we're pumping, we're selling, we're talking money, we're talking numbers. But does it reflect in the life of the citizen in any way? Because when it's all said and done, nobody really cares how much the country is making, as they are concerned about the HDI, the Human Development Index, in terms of health, all right? In terms of access to functional health services, in terms of life expectancy. That's very important, because as it stands today, unless the numbers changed overnight, Nigerians, life expectancy in this country is still far below 60. As a matter of fact, at the point up until now, we're doing 54. But you go to other countries, you go to Scandinavian countries, let's not waste time to the US and the UK, for example, you see life expectancy of 71, 74, 79, 84. All right, so what are they doing differently that we need to also learn? You know, a lecturer once told us in class, he said, look, the same oil you found in Nigeria is the same exact crude that was found in the UAE around the same time. But the last 30, 35 years, what has the UAE done with oil money? The same question is asked about Nigeria. What has Nigeria done with oil money? We've been here since 1956. Starting from Oloibiri in now Bayelsa State, for example. What have we done with crude? In fact, a particular international media had done just this year a sort of special report on what it calls the curse of oil. And it was talking squarely about Nigeria, which also featured former President Chief Olusegun Obasanjo. So the long and short of the story is, we're not just going to be here talking time and again about these things. We've got to sit down, look ourselves in the eye, and find the balls to tell ourselves the truth.
Well, we need to tell ourselves the truth, but then sometimes Nigerians depend on the federal government for almost everything. Mm-hmm. You talked about the fact that any little thing happening anywhere, you see people running to FCT to do protests, to do all of that. I think to that extent, I feel there is need for orientation. Monies have been released from the federal government coffer to the states.
Right.
We know how much is being released. You know, sometimes you get to see them on the pages of the paper. It's been published. But what about the people? Some people in the state don't even know. I had someone on my program who said he is the only graduate in his community. Just one person in a community of how many thousands?
He's not the only one who listens to news in that community.
That's what it means. That's what it means. That's even if he is there in that community.
Right.
Because he must have gone out in search for greener pasture and all of that. So these are some of the things. The people need to get the necessary information.
That's right.
The best education on what to do. A lot of governors are taking advantage of the people. Because you know how it happens in this part of the world, that if some people get into office, they feel they become a semi-god. And no one asks them questions anymore. Because the people don't even know what to do. If not recently, some persons don't even know that there's anything like recall. You know, and the process is so tedious. Someone said, have we ever had a recall in Nigeria?
Not the one that was botched, but successful one.
Successful one. All right, it's one thing to start a journey, and it's another thing to arrive at your destination. Right. So we're looking at all of these, and of course, it is very important for us to know that there is need for the National Orientation Agency to carry out this sensitization assignment, educate the people on what to do. And of course, the people should be able to ask questions. When we were talking about empowerment, one thing came to my mind. I remember growing up, we used to have what they call National ND Development Enterprise.
The National Directorate of Employment.
Directorate of Employment.
Which was very popular then.
Which was very popular. You know, you see them in states, in local governments,
right,
training people, you know, on different things, hairdressing, you know, mechanic, different things. But we have all of these things. And you know, one thing that we mustn't take away is the fact that when you empower the people, the level of dependency will reduce.
Right.
Because people will tend to be on their own, and you know what that means as a father, as a federal government.
Right.
Then as a governor, when you empower the people, things become easy for you. But a lot of these people do a lot of gymnastics, especially when election is close by.
Right.
Because some governors want to become senators after their tenure.
Yeah.
You know,
I think they call it retirement.
they call it retirement.
Yeah.
That's the last phase for them. So all of these things put together, sometimes you'll be wondering, what's the problem? Where's the problem coming from? You know, but the bottom line is the federal government, the governors, and even people at the council, because we know that there are a lot of retirement. Serap is asking a lot of questions. How much are you sending to these governors? Let's know how much. Is money being retired to the local government council in form of the local government allocations and a full pronouncement of the autonomy? But we don't have all of that. You know, but then I think it's high time that Nigerians will just need to sit down and watch what will happen. But the kind of things we are hearing in other countries will not be our portion in this country, because Nigeria is a great nation, and sometimes when hunger is too much, people tend to become reckless, which is not sometimes controllable, because a hungry man sometimes become an angry man, or even sometimes unknowingly.
Right.
Unknowingly. So this money being given to the governors, all right, needs supervision.
By all means.
By all means. Because, like you said, if anything happened, they will call the federal government. Whereas the federal government is already sending the money to the governors who are closer to the people.
And the federal government does not have it as a responsibility to supervise.
The governors. You know, but then I think the people themselves have all the authority, you know, to ask questions. That's why we have the state assembly
to do the checks and balances, checkmate the executive and all of that. Quite an interesting conversation that's just been kickstarted this morning on the program. We're taking a quick break now, everyone. When we return, we'll walk you through headlines across national dailies.
It's good to have you join us on the Global Morning this very beautiful Thursday. Well, we're taking you to the national dailies now. What are the papers saying? From the Punch newspaper, we have this major headline. Like we said earlier, my colleague have already said that majority of the papers have the picture of the president and, of course, the scorecard. It is 2 years and a lot of assessments. But on the Punch newspaper this morning, I think just a few headlines, like it is in other papers. Tinubu's 2-year review stirs fresh political firestorm. Details read on page 7. I know that was going to happen. Tinubu's 2-year review stirs fresh political firestorm. But I don't know. I wanted to say oppositions would always have so much to say, and a lot of Nigerians will also speak. Then I cushion myself a little bit to know if we actually have a standing opposition right now, because even myself, I don't know the party that is the real opposition right now, because the APC seems not to be getting a run for their money as it is. But then the 2-year term, of course, review is stirring up some fresh political firestorm. Midterm revive, all right. Manufacturers gasp under energy credit burden as reforms bite. You can get details on page 70. And now to the Star Story, which have just a rider. May 29th speech. We are laying foundation for sustainable future, says Tinubu. For May 29th speech, we are laying foundation for sustainable future, says Tinubu. And of course, as it is right now, you know, today is May 29, and the picture of the president is what we have on the page of the Punch newspaper. You can see the scorecard, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu at 2, that's 2 years. You have over 900,000 beneficiaries of presidential loan and grant scheme. Then this one says over 300,000 beneficiaries of students loan scheme. Over $10 billion FX debt cleared. Then over 440 ongoing road projects, including over 2,700 kilometers of superhighways. 3.84% GDP growth in Q4 2024, highest in 3 years. That's what this administration is telling us. 70,000 naira minimum wage payment. These are the things that this administration have achieved, and they are rolling it out. This one says over 13,500 terrorists eliminated. Over $50 billion in new FDI commitments. New foreign exchange reserve up from $3.99 billion in 2023 to $23.11 billion in 2024. Another scorecard here, this one says over $8 billion in new oil and gas investments unlocked. 4 new landmark tax bills, 5 new regional development commissions, over $800 billion realized in processing investments in solid minerals in 2024. These are some of the achievements of this administration as it has been connected to the president on the full page of the Punch newspaper this morning. Well, one of the things that actually caught my fancy on this paper is the fact that everything is about the president.
Right.
Well, the scorecard for me, I think the economists will need to do more explanation. Like we said earlier, it could be that these things are already happening, but the impact of it is what Nigerians are talking about. how has it really affected the average Nigerian? Because the major concern is not even the elite. We're talking about the average Nigerians, that woman in that community, that farmer somewhere, that peasant farmer, that trader somewhere. You know, are they really feeling the impact of all of this? Well, in our subsequent programs and of course bulletin, you get to know more about President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's 2 years in office.
All right, let's turn to our next port of call now, everyone. The Daily Times newspaper. Just one headline, incidentally, here with a picture of former Head of State General Yakubu Gowon retired. It says, ECOWAS at 50, that's your kicker. Gowon Tinubu leads commemorative card signing at historic anniversary event. You can find those details on page 4 of the Daily Times. Just like Ramsey mentioned a while ago, you have infographics with a picture of the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Federal Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and then it just has itemized features of what this government, under the leadership of President Tinubu, has achieved in different sectors. If you look at the papers today, it cuts across all the major tabloid, but then we move on to the next one now, which is the Guardian newspaper.
All right, on the Guardian this morning, just a few headlines, because the president's 2 year in office is taking over almost all the papers this morning. All right, just a few headlines from the Guardian this morning. ECOWAS at 50, Tinubu Gowon, others seek stronger ties amid shifting alliances, security wages. Details you can find on page 6. 4,169 teachers fail professional qualifying exams. All right, so you know, growing up, did you know that teachers fail exams?
Of course, then we were too naive, of course, on account of age, to even realize that teachers had to write exams. They had to be tested and retested. They had to be trained and retrained. So for us, the teachers were too perfect to ever fail an exam. That is, if they ever took any. But we know better. We saw, for example, in Edo State, our former governor Adams Aliyu Oshomole, now senator representing Edo North, had his own moment, so to speak, with a teacher when he paid an unscheduled visit to a testing center, because then there was this controversial competency test that was ongoing, and she asked the woman to read something that was supposed to be, well, quite a walk in the park. But some people say, well, maybe because of the executive presence of the governor as it then was, the woman got a bit frightened, was nervous, and, you know, got the chills, as they say. She couldn't read it, and that video went viral at that time. But we saw that competency tests thing being replicated across a few other states over time. Kaduna also had theirs under immediate past governor, Malam Nasir El-Rufai. But the thing is, the teaching profession is one you can almost call sacred and sacrosanct because of the pivotal role of education in our lives and, of course, in national development. Therefore, there's no right-thinking government at any level that wants to take chances with the quality of teacher and the standard of teaching that it provides. So I think that's why we're having all of these hula baloo.
It's a serious hula baloo. I'm just wondering what will happen to these teachers who fail these professional qualifying exams.
Right.
Well, if you want to know what exam it is and what they are qualifying for, pick a copy of the Guardian newspaper and go straight to page 7 for more details. Just like parents, fathers never failed, because they tell you, when I was like you, you know, I was always coming first, coming top.
Until when we bump in on their results.
All right, more headlines still coming on your way from the Guardian newspaper this morning. Alia Obi decry lack of strategy to curb insecurity. Benue is something else right now. Details you can find on page 58. Alia is crying out. A lot happening as far as insecurity is concerned. But I think The last time I checked, he was crying to the federal government for help. He's the first #1 chief secretary of the state.
Right.
And I think the situation escalated to the extent that he couldn't handle it anymore. And he had to cry to the federal government. But then, as some persons said, well, nothing happens in Nigeria for just happening's sake.
Right.
There must be an undertone. Something must be tied to it.
Political or otherwise. Right.
So a lot of persons are speculating so many things. But the bottom line is, Benue used to be the food basket of the nation. But now I don't know where to place Benue State as it is, because the roads are not passable. You can't travel along the roads. So many things happening, even in your house. You can't really sleep with two eyes closed. There are evidences everywhere. And Alia will need to do something. Some people are saying, well, he's not doing enough. Just like you talk of people running to FCT when there is anything, there is any problem. As a governor, to be a governor is not a day's job, because you have to be up and doing, and whatever happens, the people will hold you responsible.
That's right.
And that's what everyone in governance should know. But as a matter of fact, every governor is trying their best, including Alia. But then sometimes there is need for collaboration with the authorities and even some other intelligence agencies. Now, to the Star story, Tinubu insists economic reforms are working. Oppositions kicks. Well, if you want to know who these oppositions are, just pick a copy of the Guardian newspaper and flip to page 6. You know who these oppositions kicking are. Same infographic of the president there with some other details as it is in all other papers. So it is on the Guardian newspaper. Now, we'll move to the next paper. Over to you.
The Daily Trust newspaper is our next part, of course. So we look at the headlines just immediately below the nameplate of it. Well, top left first, it says, "The worst behind us." That's President Tinubu talking. You can find those details on page 22. If you pick up a copy of today's issue of the Daily Trust newspaper, military arrests 18 soldiers, 15 corps oversupply of arms to terrorists. Again, you're talking about fifth columnists and saboteurs from the inside. AFDB, that's a rider. Nigeria, 90 others elect additional successor today. AFDB, Nigeria, 90 others elect additional successor today. Incidentally, we're seeing a couple of people you can call Africa's bright lights. All right, vie for that position. They've been campaigning in a manner of speaking, trying to put their best foot forward and talking to Africans and the powers that be, so to speak, about how that they are the best candidate for this job. But today we understand that it's going to be time for Nigeria and 90 others to elect the person to succeed Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, himself being the incumbent president of the African Development Bank. Of course, Dr. Adesina had also been Minister of Agriculture in this country under the leadership of former President Dr. Goodluck Billy Jonathan. All right, so let's see what happens. May the best man win, as they say. That takes us to our leader headline, the Star headline this morning. It reads, 2 years after putting Tinubu on the scale. Wow. Question is, will the scale tip? All right, so you can read all those details on pages 11 and 18. Highs, lows of ECOWAS at 50. That's an ongoing event, by the way. Expect ground rent hike, Wike tells Abuja property owners. So brace up, people. 10,217 persons killed in Nigeria in 24 months. That is credited to Amnesty International. Nigerian pilgrim returns missing 8.2 million naira to owner in Makkah. Nigeria pilgrim returns missing 8.2 million naira to owner in Makkah. Well, that's someone else here putting Nigeria on the map for the right reason. We hope we continue to show good example of our country and leave the right impression everywhere we turn. Well, that's where we leave it with the Daily Trust this morning. We'll now flip over to the Nigerian Tribune, and Ramsey has those headlines for us.
On the Nigerian Tribune this morning, let's quickly look at some of the headlines. Emefiele appeals of final forfeiture orders on the 753 Boston Unit Estate. The issue of the former CBN governor, the case is still there. And of course, the forfeiture of his estate. And then this one says, second anniversary, Tinubu declares economic reform working. And there are some riders to that story. The first one says, only alternative to reform was physical collapse. Another one says, reaffirms commitment, security, national development. That's the president there. And the last rider says, highlights progress made amid rising cost of living. All right, what progress have we made on the rising cost of living? You can pick a copy of the Nigerian Tribune and get to know that for yourself. Okay, this one, affair on Thursday, parliamentary power versus executive outrage, global example, and Nigeria's contrast. Now, the only thing we have there is still the scorecard of the president at 2. So that's going to be the size of the headlines from the Nigerian Tribune as we move to the next paper.
All right, the Standard Times. We begin with the star headline for you. ECOWAS at 50, let's sustain the legacies of founding fathers. President Tinubu charges ECOWAS leaders. That's the Standard Times. ECOWAS at 50, let's sustain the legacies of founding fathers. President Tinubu charges ECOWAS leaders. Let's take it a notch higher for you. Top right corner of the Standard Times. Court war claims 4, 5 badly injured in Ondo. Abuja explosion not caused by seaside bomber. That's according to Minister of the FCT, Nyesom Wike. Read of those details on page 2 of the Standard Times today. All right. Then here we have oil companies to pay $300 helicopter landing levy. That's according to Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development, Mr. Festus Kayamo. All of these headlines are coming from the Standard Times newspaper this morning. All right. Then you go down a little further. It says to you, bandits kills cause in attack on Niger communities. Kano TikToker Mroja Kunya sentenced to 6 months jail term for Naira abuse. Second year of President Tinubu, we would have performed better than APC. Labour Party insists. All of these from Standard Times newspaper. Emefiele appeals final forfeiture order on 753 unit housing estate. Customs Area 2 Command honor launches Bill Dogu for trade efficiency revenue collection. PDP crisis, Damagun has failed. That's credited to former governor of Benue State, Gabriel Suswam. All right. Then at the foot of the paper this morning, CMPP, Civil Society Coalition, demand ICPC probe into 300 billion naira corruption allegations under ex-Dimasa DG Bashir Jamo. Those details are with you on page 3 of the Standard Times newspaper. Well, that's our penultimate paper this morning. The last but not least certainly will be This Day newspaper.
All right, from This Day newspaper this morning, let's quickly look at some of the major headlines. Tinubu, Nigeria is walking. Our worst days now behind us. That's the president talking right there. Remember, it's 2 years in office. Our worst days are now behind us. I think I like that. Some writers to that story actually declares zero VAT on food, education, health care, rent, and others. That's beautiful because the problem of housing, these are major, the food, education, healthcare, rent, and of course what do you call it? Rent, very important, and others, especially that of rent. The housing deficit problem in Nigeria is becoming something else. Another writer says discloses external reserve grew by 500% from $4 billion to over $23 billion. Okay, then this one says a doom impression Nigeria will borrow $25 billion in 2 years erroneous. The impression that some people are having that Nigeria will borrow $25 billion in 2 years is erroneous, and that's coming from Edum, that's Wale Edum, the coordinating minister of the economy. Details you can find on page 66. And now to the next one, which is directly above the nameplate. Dangote Refinery ends Nigeria's status as Africa's biggest fuel importer. Details you can find on page 62. I think some of the things that Nigerians are expecting from Dangote Refinery is far beyond being the biggest fuel importer.
Right.
It's far beyond that. We're not importing fuel anymore. But then, what about the internal arrangement? How are Nigerians, how comfortable are Nigerians with the usage of this fuel? We are not saying, remember, we need to have an understanding of what we're talking about. Everyone is excited that the Dangote refinery has come to stay. But then, we need other refineries to be up and doing so we can have competition. And at the face of competition, we know there could be a reduction, more reduction in price. It's done so much, but then there is need for more reduction in price. I think that's more important right now than the status of not being the Africa's biggest fuel importer at the moment. All right, that's going to be the size of the headline. I don't know if there's still time for us to look at the blueprint.
Well, we can still look at the blueprint, so we can have a full cycle on the newspapers this morning. Well, at this point, we're going to take a quick break, quite frankly. When we return, we'll talk a little more. We're still on the papers and the headlines we've looked at this morning, and top of the hour will be time for the Global AM News. All right, everyone, let's go tie up on the papers now, looking at the very last of them, the Blueprint newspaper. At the very top of it, it says, Tinubu seeks NAS approval for $21.5 billion loan, 757.9 billion naira pension bond. Sounds like a lot of money. Two writers there accompany the story. Says funds to address infrastructure deficit gap, Nigeria's economic reforms yielding results. That's based on the assessment of the African Development Bank. Okay, what's more here, just beneath the name mast, at 99th neck, PDP vows to fight on despite defections. I think that's basically what it is here on the Blueprint newspaper this morning. Please do well to pick up these papers, read up details for yourself. As we always say, stay ahead of the news, and then you are able to avoid fake news and misinformation. Again, we are not part of those who are responsible for the editorial guidelines and publication of these headlines. So Global TV has no editorial contribution to these headlines whatsoever. All we do is just bring you the headlines, do a bit of analysis, and guide you through the day's news. All right, we'll take a quick break. Up next at top of the hour is the Global AM News.
Do you know that global television can be watched in Nigeria and all over the world?
Download the Global TV Nigerian mobile app for Android and iOS devices to watch global television real-time from around the world. What are you waiting for?
Start downloading and stay connected to global television.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
and at the same time keeping you well informed about important events, both national and internationals.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Monday through Sunday to a wide range of latest news making rounds on Global Morning. Do you know that global television can be watched in Nigeria and all over the world?
Download the Global TV Nigerian mobile app for Android and iOS devices to watch global television real time from around the world. What are you waiting for?
Start Download it and stay connected to Global Television.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and internationals.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Monday through Sunday to a wide range of latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road.
Hello and welcome to all our viewers in Nigeria and around the world. So the Global AM News coming to you live from Nigeria's capital, Abuja. I'm Uyi Agumofwegbe, reminding our viewers that Global TV is on DSTV channel 365 and Star Times 276. You can download the Global TV Nigeria mobile app for Android and iOS devices to keep track of our 24/7 broadcast. President Bola Tinubu has called on leaders of the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, to match bold policy declarations with decisive implementation, stressing that the regional bloc must begin delivering tangible results, especially for youth and women who form the majority of its population. Speaking in Lagos at the 50th anniversary celebration of ECOWAS, President Tinubu, who currently chairs the authority of ECOWAS heads of states and governments, acknowledged the organization's historic achievements in regional integration, trade liberalization, peacekeeping, and democratic governance. However, he asserted that the next chapter must be defined by action, not promises. Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, FCT, Nyesom Wike, has dismissed reports of seaside bombing in respect of Monday's explosion around the Yanya Axis. Speaking during a project inspection in Abuja, Wike said the victim had ignorantly carried an explosive material from a quarry site which exploded on him. Quite an unfortunate incident there. The Federal Capital Territory Command of the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps, NSCDC, has sealed 7 private security companies operating unlawfully within the territory. The operation conducted forms part of a wider enforcement initiative aimed at ensuring compliance with national security regulations. FCT Commandant of the Corps, Dr. Lushola Odumosu, who led the enforcement team, says 6 of the 7 companies had no operational licenses, while the 7th was operating with an expired license. The theater commander of Operation Hadinkai, Major General Abdusalam Abubakar, has revealed that foreign mercenaries infiltrating the northeast region have intensified the threat posed by terrorist groups such as Islamic State's West African province and Boko Haram. Speaking in Maiduguri, Borno State capital, Major General Abubakar explained that the involvement of these mercenaries has enabled terrorist groups to adopt more sophisticated tactics, including use of drones for surveillance and attacks, the manufacturing of advanced improvised explosive devices, and the setting of traps targeting military personnel. He also called for an urgent and coordinated response, emphasizing the need for intensified intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance efforts, as well as strengthened cooperation between Nigeria and neighboring countries to disrupt cross-border support networks. Saudi Arabia has announced the sighting of the crescent moon, marking the start of Dhul Hijjah, the 12th and final month of the Islamic lunar calendar. According to announcements shared on X by Haramain Sharafain, Dhul Hijjah 1446 will commence on the 28th of May 2025. The post highlighted key dates for the upcoming Islamic observances. Well, let's take a look at other stories for you. The House of Representatives has called for a thorough investigation into alleged unethical practices in the disbursement of student loans under the Nigerian Education Loan Fund, NELFund, amid growing concerns over transparency, mismanagement and violations of Student Loans Access to Higher Education Act 2024. The motion raised by Honorable Aliyu Abdullahi Mustafa on the floor of the House during plenary in Abuja drew attention to alarming reports from the National Orientation Agency and the Federal Ministry of Education, which suggested collusion between some tertiary institutions and financial entities to delay or divert student loans intended to provide equitable and interest-free access to higher education. Mustafa noted that the Student Loans Act 2024 was enacted to ensure timely and transparent access to interest-free loans for all Nigerian students pursuing higher education. Legislative lawyers under the aegis of Association of Legislative Drafting and Advocacy Practitioners have commenced moves to compel Nigerian senators to refund part of their salaries and allowances collected since 2023 over alleged poor performance. A set of 40 senators are equally being asked to make total refund of salaries and allowances received during the period for concurrently holding membership of the Nigerian Senate and the ECOWAS and Pan-African parliaments in violation of Nigerian laws. The legislative lawyers who have approached the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Tribunal as consumers dissatisfied with the services received from the senators have forwarded a pre-action notice to the Senate through the Senate President, Godswill Akpabio. As children in Nigeria joined the rest of the world to celebrate this year's International Children's Day, Nigerian children have been advised to be good ambassadors and stay away from drugs and social vices. President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, gave the admonition while receiving students from selected schools in Abuja to the Senate chamber.
President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, who rejoiced with the children in Nigeria on the auspicious occasion, tasked them to stay away from drugs and other social vices that could put them and their future in danger, noting that they should remain good ambassadors of Nigeria in deed and character. He restated the commitment of the 10th National Assembly to protecting rights and privileges of Nigerian children through effective legislation, adding that the present administration of President Bola Tinubu would continue to prioritize their needs.
We commit ourselves to creating the enabling environment that will support your growth, support your education, and support your well-being. We pledge to prioritize policies and programs that protect your rights, that will promote your welfare and unlock the potentials within you.
The students' representative from the selected schools thanked the leadership of the National Assembly for the opportunity to observe plenary and appealed to the National Assembly to continue to give undivided attention to the needs of children across the country. Highlight of the occasion was the handshake with the Senate President, Godswill Akpabio, by all the children at plenary. Uyi Agbomofwegbe, reporting for Global TV.
The National Hajj Commission of Nigeria, NACON, has found out the medical breach by a Zamfara pilgrim who had skilled pregnancy screening to the Holy Land and gave birth. The Commissioner of Planning, Research and Information of the Commission, Professor Abubakar Yangawal, stated this during an interview with newsmen in Medina. Yagawal said NACON would engage the state handlers to ensure diligence in screening pilgrims, particularly female, to safeguard their lives and that of the fetus. The Federal Capital Territory Administration is yet to unseal the national headquarters of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, 48 hours after President Bola Tinubu had ordered the reopening. It is reported that the party's national secretariat at Wadata Plaza in Wuse Zone 5 of Abuja around 11 a.m. yesterday, both entrances remained sealed while staff members and private security personnel were seen loitering around the premises, unable to gain access to the building. The legal team representing Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan has raised the alarm over what it described as a disturbing pattern of selective justice following the federal government's decision to file criminal charges against her despite multiple unresolved petitions she lodged earlier this year. In a statement released by her counsel Uju Onwondu, the team outlined 12 petitions submitted by the senator between March and May this year. According to the legal team, petitions reportedly detailed allegations including cyber-stalking, defamation, threats to life, and an alleged assassination attempt, which none of these complaints have been acted upon by the Nigeria Police Force or any relevant security agency. The General Officer Commanding 3 Division, Nigeria Army, Major General Eyitayo Folosho Oyinlola, says there is a dire need for military operations to leverage modern technology and advanced techniques to curb insecurity challenges in the country. This was revealed while he addressed participants during the opening session of the Module 3 for 3 Division Operating Planning Cadre 2025 at 33 Artillery Brigade of Shadawanka Barracks in Bauchi. Onyola underscored the need to actively incorporate technological components, noting that operational planning cadre junior commanders training for tactical operation level is aimed at shaping and refreshing their minds on their responsibilities, as well as acquainting them with innovations, policies in the Nigerian Army and Army forces in general. Let's turn to the country's southeast now, where Imo State First Lady has highlighted government's education efforts and urged children to shun drugs and cultism. As part of activities to mark this year's Children's Day, the First Lady, Chioma Uzodinma, hosted children to a colorful celebration at the Government House Banquet Hall in Owerri, the state capital. During the event, she highlighted the state government's commitment to education and child welfare while urging children to stay away from drugs and cultism. Our correspondent, Marachi Ibe, now reports.
Children's Day is celebrated every 27th of May in Nigeria to honor the rights, dreams, and well-being of children. It is a day set aside to recognize their potentials and to raise awareness on issues affecting their development and safety. This year's celebration in Imo State also serves as an opportunity to showcase the government's efforts in promoting education. The First Lady, Chioma Uzodinma, noted that several old schools across the state have been renovated, while new ones are under construction to enhance learning.
As we all know, the state government has approved the renovation of schools in all the local governments and also building new schools in all the local governments. And I'm sure that before the end of the year, that these schools will be all done. And we know that even for the teachers, the state government has been paying the 13th month salary and making sure that salaries are paid as at when due, so that the teachers will be happy and teach the students too properly. So both students and teacher will be happy.
Beyond the celebration, the First Lady used the occasion to caution the children against drug abuse, cultism, and other harmful behaviors that could ruin their future.
So my advice to students is shun cultism. Do not take drugs. They do not help you. They destroy you. So please, when somebody walks up to you and says, let's take drugs or let's enter cult, tell them that Mamimo has said you should shun cultism and you should not take drugs.
The children and teachers expressed excitement and gratitude, describing the celebration as memorable and inspiring.
Happy is that here is organized, the party is very organized, and I love the way that, I love all the games that they played here. I advise them to keep on doing well, and I wish them happy Children's Day.
Today is a very beautiful day for me, the best day ever in the world. I like today so much. Thank you very, very much. She's a very beautiful lady, and I would like to give her a clap.
Thank God for her for allowing the children to come and celebrate with her today. It's a thing of joy. I'm sure the children are also happy.
With music, games, appearance by mascots, and a message of hope, the event combined fun with strong moral guidance, reflecting the First Lady's passion for the well-being and future of Imo children. From Imo Government House, Owerri, I'm Marachi Ibe, reporting for Global TV News.
Oh, thank you, Marachi. President Bola Tinubu has declared his unwavering support for the APC gubernatorial candidate in Anambra State, Evangelist Nicholas Ukachukwu, and his running mate, Senator Uche Ekwunife, officially presenting the party flag to them at the State House in Abuja. In a symbolic ceremony, the president charged the duo with a clear directive: go and get me Anambra, underscoring the administration's commitment to securing victory in the forthcoming election.
President Bola Tinubu praised the APC's national and state leadership of Anambra State for successful primaries and expressed strong optimism about the party's chances, highlighting Senator Ekwunife as an exemplary running mate. The president assured the candidates of full support throughout their campaign, emphasizing that while the party is supreme, victory is paramount.
So we're coming with that momentum, and when the president visited, he saw the enormous crowd that came to his party people that were so happy, whether from morning till the time he left, with so much enthusiasm, with so much joy and happiness. When you see your party member, you know, and the president acknowledge that, and I goes, go and bring Anambra to center. And that's what we're going to do.
With the APC flag now in their hands and the backing of the highest office, Ukachukwu and Ekwunife are set to lead a high-stakes campaign energized by President Tinubu's endorsements and a unified party structure behind them. Uyi Agbomofwegbe, reporting for Global TV News.
Elsewhere, Chief Executive Officer of the Southeast Development Commission, SEDC, Mark Okoye, has provided President Bola Tinubu with an update on the Commission's 100-day progress report. Following a high-level meeting at the Presidential Villa in Abuja, Okoye addressed the press. Sharon Ajay has details.
Highlighting the strides made since the Commission's inception, Chief Executive Officer of the Southeast Development Commission, Mark Okoye II, emphasized SEDC's dedication to transforming President Tinubu's renewed hope agenda into concrete developmental outcomes for Nigeria's Southeast region. Describing the meeting as both productive and forward-looking, Okoye underscores the president's renewed commitment to fast-tracking the region's growth and development.
We've been in office for about 104 days, given that we were inaugurated on February 11th this year. And in that time, this was really a briefing for me to give him an update on what we've done and what we've been able to achieve in the last 100 days. And it spent about 25 minutes of those really taking him through the strategic vision, what we intend to achieve as an organization, how we intend to mainstream the Renewed Hope agenda.
He further revealed that SEDC is targeting the creation of a $200 billion regional economy by 2035, aiming to make a substantial contribution to Nigerians' broader economic advancement.
We have broadly around 7 to 8 major programs. One of them is the Southeast Security Intervention Program, where we'll be working closely with the host governments to see how we can support for a more secure Southeast. Because only when there's improved security, then you can start layering on development and investment and economic opportunities for then young people. The second is which Mr. President quite liked a lot, was the agro development program, where we aim to develop over 50,000 hectares of land over the next 4 years.
Expressing his gratitude for the confidence placed in him by President Tinubu, Okoye reiterated the Commission's pledge to prioritizing measurable results, transparency, and active public engagement. Sharon Ajay reporting for Global TV News.
Correspondent Sharon Ajay, thank you. This is Global Television. You're watching the live broadcast of the Global AM News. When the rest of the news returns shortly, participants stranded as Ogun athletes protest unpaid allowances in Gateway Games. Details coming shortly, plus business and foreign stories for you.
Do you know that Global Television can be watched in Nigeria and all over the world?
Download the Global TV Nigerian mobile app for Android and iOS devices to watch Global Television real-time from around the world. What are you waiting for?
Start downloading and stay connected to Global Television.
We appreciate you staying with us. The second part of this news broadcast now returns with business, where Nigeria's public debt is set for another significant jump as President Bola Tinubu has requested the National Assembly's approval to secure fresh foreign loans amounting to about $24.14 billion. At the prevailing official exchange rate of 1,583 naira 74 kobo per dollar, the proposed borrowing would add approximately 38.24 trillion naira to the existing debt stock, potentially pushing Nigeria's total public debt from 144.67 trillion naira at the end of 2024 to over 182.91 trillion naira by 2026. And still talking business, consumer confidence in the United States has improved significantly in May following a truce in the ongoing trade war between Washington and Beijing. This marks a positive turn after 5 consecutive months of declining sentiment. The Conference Board, a global economic research group, reported that its consumer confidence index rose by 12.3 points to reach 98.0 in May. This figure exceeds economists' expectations, who had predicted a more modest increase to 87.0. The report noted that about half of the survey responses were collected after May 12, when the White House announced a temporary deal to reduce tariffs on Chinese imports from 145% to 30% for a period of 90 days. Let's go to the foreign scene now, where President Donald Trump says if Canada could join his proposed Golden Dome missile defense system for free, it will become part of the United States. He said it will cost Canada $61 billion to be part of the system, who has repeatedly called for the United States' northern neighbor to become the 51st state. Canada has expressed interest in joining the missile system plans, for which Trump unveiled last week to defend against a wide array of enemy weapons, but has firmly rejected any loss of sovereignty. Thousands of Palestinians have overrun an aid distribution site in Gaza set up by a controversial U.S. and Israeli-backed group a day after it began working there. The group says at one point its team fell back because the numbers seeking aid were so great. The Israeli military said troops nearby fired warning shots. The GHF, which uses armed American security contractors, aims to bypass the UN as the main supplier of aid in Gaza, where experts have warned of a looming famine after an 11-week Israeli blockade that was recently eased. Videos showed crowds walking over torn-down fences and earth burns at the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation's compound in the southern city of Rafah. The United Nations Human Rights Office says 47 people were injured in Gaza when crowds overwhelmed an aid distribution center run by a controversial new group backed by the U.S. and Israel. A senior official said UN was still gathering information, but that most of the injuries were due to gunshots and that it was shooting from the Israeli Defense Forces, IDF. The Defense Forces stated it was checking the reports. A spokesman said troops fired warning shots into the air in the area outside the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation site in the city of Rafah, but that they did not fire towards people. Time to look at some exciting sports stories for you. Athletes representing Holst Ogun State at the 22nd National Sports Festival have left other athletes and officials stranded at the Games Village at Babcock University as they protested the non-payment of their allowances with 2 days to the end of the Gateway Games 2024. In videos and pictures circulated by officials at the Games Village, buses conveying athletes to different venues of events were stranded as athletes in Ogun tracksuits were seen blocking the gate. It was said that the situation began as early as 5:30 a.m. Victor Osimhen is edging closer to securing a lucrative move to Saudi Arabian champions Al Hilal as desperate Galatasaray suppliers launch increasingly creative campaigns to persuade the Nigerian striker to remain in Istanbul, Turkey, including a heartfelt plea displayed on a Times Square billboard in New York City. The 26-year-old is reportedly in advanced negotiations with Al Hilal over a 3-year contract worth close to 15 million euros per season, despite passionate appeals from Galatasaray fans who have witnessed him light up the Turkish Super League with 25 goals and 5 assists in 29 games. The latest fan-driven gesture saw a digital billboard at Times Square displaying the message, "Stay with us," as part of an ongoing Stay With Us campaign, representing one of the most prominent locations globally for the Turkish supporters' desperate bid to retain their star performer. And that's all for the Global AM News here. Thank you so much for watching. The rest of Global Morning returns shortly.
Do you know that Global Television can be watched in Nigeria and all over the world?
Download the Global TV Nigerian mobile app for Android and iOS devices to watch Global Television real-time from around the world. What are you waiting for?
Start downloading and stay connected to Global Television.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and internationals.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Monday through Sunday to a wide range of latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and internationals.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Monday through Sunday to a wide range of latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road.
Do you know that Global Television can be watched in Nigeria and all over the world?
Download the Global TV Nigerian mobile app for Android and iOS devices to watch Global Television real-time from around the world. What are you waiting for?
Start downloading and stay connected to Global Television.
Welcome back from that break. Well, we're able to bring you some very detailed information from the 8 o'clock bulletin, and more news and current affairs information will still be coming on your way. This is Global Morning and the first discussion for the day. We want to talk about human rights today because a lot of people are just there. They don't know their rights. Some persons don't know where their rights end and where the other person's rights begins. And we've had a lot of people taking laws into their hands. We've had a lot of people being messed up. They have been messed up. at different occasions because they don't really know their rights. Today we want to look at human rights violation and its implication. If your right is violated, what do you do? I have a legal practitioner that will be joining me on the program as we look at that this morning. We'll be right back after this break.
Do you know that global television can be watched in Nigeria and all over the world?
Download the Global TV Nigerian mobile app for Android and iOS devices to watch global television real-time from around the world. What are you waiting for?
Start downloading and stay connected to global television.
Do you know that global television can be watched in Nigeria and all over the world?
Download the Global TV Nigerian mobile app for Android and iOS devices to watch global television real-time from around the world. What are you waiting for?
Start downloading and stay connected to Global Television.
Well, we apologize for the little break in our transmission due to a little technical issue that has been fixed. It's all in a bid to serve you better. Now to the discussion now, as my guest is already seated. I have a human rights activist, a legal practitioner, and of course, a chartered mediator and conciliator. And of course, he is in the presence of, I call him Esquire. And the reason why I call him Esquire is because he deserves it. I'm talking about Alexander Ogbor. Thank you for joining us on the program today.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure being here once again.
Yes, Barrister, I want to look at some very important issue, and that's the violation of human rights. But first of all, you need to know what your right is before you can even identify when it's been violated. So where do we get started from? So what are these rights?
Yeah, issues bordering around human rights, like they are captured in our 1999 Constitution as amended from section 33 to 45. Right to life, they have the right to live your life as you so desire or deserve, and nobody should deprive you of your right to live your life. Only that in living your life, you're supposed to go by the rules so that you don't also interfere with other people's rights. You have the right to freedom of association, to join any association of your choice, freedom of assembly, so on and so forth. There are so many aspects of these rights: freedom of expression, freedom to own property. For instance, in case of property, your property should not be deprived from you by anybody or government except according to law and rules. For instance, there are situations people have property and maybe for varying public interest, the government want to set up a structure like this issue of railway or these coastal highways that will encroach on your property. The government will have to notify the affected persons and compensate them adequately before such properties are taken, meaning that they have to relocate and pay some monetary compensation. At times it's just monetary compensation so that you can get another one somewhere else. So these are some of the rights that people have. No matter your age, whether you're an infant, male or female, you're an adult, all these rights are sacrosanct and should not be denied any person. You have the right to choose what you want to worship. People choose whatever. Some are Christians, some are Muslims, some are enemies. Some decide to worship an animal. That's what they have chosen. All right? And all those. So these are some of the rights that we have.
All right. Now, as it is right now, sometimes I hear people say things like, when you have a case and you get to the police station, maybe you have a case with the police and all of that, you get to the police station, there are some rights that you have. A lot of Nigerians don't know that right.
No, exactly. When the police maybe invite you for anything, interrogation for any suspicion, when you get to the station, there's this provision that you may decide to be silent. You decide to say nothing, all right? That's your own choice. And two, you are not supposed to be taken on record at the police station without the presence of your lawyer. If you don't have a lawyer of your choice, the law provides that the police under the government should provide you with a lawyer who stands for you and guide you on what to say or what not to say, because there are languages you use that may work against you, which do not actually mean what you have in mind. There are this statement that somebody makes a statement, but his or her mind was not with him or her when the person was making the statement. You see? So that if you have a lawyer, he guides you properly what to say and what not to say, so that you don't get yourself into trouble. But what we see in most police stations, they just drag people to the station, force you, and then they even write something down and force you to put your signature. You're not supposed to sign anything written by any other person, no matter who, DPO or AIG or DIG or IG or whatever. You're not supposed to sign it, except it came from you, and you are certified that this is exactly what you have said, because those words will be used against you. But if they force you to put down something, or they put something down and made you to write it, in the court, you make it clear that it was under force, called duress. You are forced. This is not what you wrote. You didn't write it. It didn't come from your mind. And once duress is established, whatever is written and signed by any individual is null and void. It was by force, not voluntary. So at the station, you have the right to make voluntary statement, putting across what you know.
All right. Well, a lot of people don't have that information, but now you are getting to know what to do. But then you talk about infringing on other people's rights.
Yes.
Because when you say freedom, you have the right to your life. And when you tell somebody, Nigerian, that you have the right to live your life, they may want to interpret it the other way around. I feel I can do whatever I want to do. So at what extent can we say somebody's right is infringing on another person's rights?
Good. Let me give a typical illustration of what happens most of the time. You see, there are people who like to smoke, and they'll come to a public place and start smoking. The other person says, no, I don't like it. The odor of this smoke is not favorable to me. And the person says, I have the right to live my life as I want, I have the right to smoke. As long as that smoke is infringing on another person's feeling, that your right to smoke is completely off and disallowed. You have to go and smoke it where other persons will not be disturbed by what you are doing. The same thing with eating. Whatever you want to eat, there are places you can go to eat that. You don't eat it in a place where it will disturb other persons. All right? So you have to put other people in contemplation. Just like we find in the scriptures that do unto others as you want them to do to you. The Constitution and the laws expect that each individual should be considerate of other people. If you are driving, you have the right to drive. Other people also have the right to drive. So you follow the rules. You don't drive anyhow, so that you don't go and infringe on another person's right, either to go and bash somebody's car, or even when you are working, you don't just come and say, okay, I have freedom of movement. Yes, you have freedom of movement by the Constitution. But you don't spray your 2 legs wide and just occupy other people's spaces. You have to utilize their own space to move in order not to stop other people from moving. So these are how these things are expressed. You express your right within the ambit of other people's freedom also to express their right. Like issue of religion. In expressing your right to choose a religion of your choice, you don't infringe on other people. You don't force other people. It's just like what we see being done in this country, and I know we'll get to a point where we'll stop it. It's time for you to pray, and you block the expressway. You block the passageway. That is infringement of other people's rights. In the name of a freedom, that is no longer freedom of religion. You are infringing on the right of other persons. And the abuse is too loud in this country, and we'll get to a point where that has to stop. You see, people block a whole chain of passages and roads in the name that it's their time to pray. That's an infringement of other people's rights in the name of expressing your religion. So that's how these things are, that in expressing your right, contemplate the interests of other persons in all aspects. Right to own a property, fantastic. But you see, that is why we see all the property beacons. If the beacons are not there, other people will take up other people's property and tell you that I'm the first to come. There are even some people who, they know that this beacon is there. But because the other person has not come to develop his or her own, they encroach into somebody did it to me, that I was the first person to come. I said the first person to come is the person that should tell the whole truth. So other people will easily fit in. But as we encroached, I went to the station, incidentally the report. I had to break the fence the person put up, and the individual never showed up again. I had to put it where the beacon is supposed to be. So some will not even, they will take you to court and claim damages because you have infringed. You extended beyond your limit in expressing your right to own a property, because other people also have a right to own a property. And that's why you see that on the issue of property, there is insistence that while you are developing your property, from your fence, there should be a margin of 3 meters before you start building inside your own compound, so that there will be space at the back in contemplation of other people you are bounded with, so that your structure will not encroach into. Some people will raise up a structure and their fencing goes into another person's property. You know, they are discharging whatever. Even some, they create a culvert drainage system and allow you to get into the general street or into another person's property. That's the issue of effluent, things that flow from your property, get into another. By that, you have infringed. And the other person has the right to sue you and claim damages. You are not following the rule.
All right, you're not following the rule, and you think you are exercising your right, but then at the end of the day, if you're not careful, if you don't know the extent where your right stops, you can actually get into infringing on that person's right. What's the level? Because a lot of Nigerians don't know this, all these things that we're talking about. Because you see people fidgeting, especially when they have to do with people in authority, people in power, especially people in positions. There is this way they look at the average Nigerians as if they don't have a right at all. In a situation whereby someone is in authority or something and the person infringes on your right, is there anywhere, I'm asking this question because you are a human rights activist too, yes. You've had experiences, you know, what can you do when the person who is infringing on your right is older than you? Maybe, for instance, maybe you're working with someone, okay, maybe you could be a house help or something. These people, some of them are not even educated, you know. So 2 questions now. How can these people get this information apart from what we are doing now? Then, in a situation like that, what can they do to seek redress?
Okay, now the case affecting those who are disadvantaged by reason of work relationship, by reason of age, by reason of sex, and that is where we see most of the abuses, where they don't even know their left from their right. The way such ones could be helped, they are most find it difficult to speak out, to voice out their opinion. If they can, is to incident a report at a police station, all right, or they get in touch with any human rights activist or organization, any NGO, to express their feelings, so that these bodies will now leverage on their behalf to seek for enforcement of their rights. So it's actually knowing the need to get to talk to someone, you know. That is where those category of people can find assistance. They all used to be most pathetic, because most of the time these things are hidden within the confines of domestic environments that they can't even talk. Excuse me. But somehow, along the line, they are expected also to open up to any of their relations or friends. So these ones can help them to express their feelings on what they are undergoing. If it's a situation where an individual could raise an alarm, because that's one of the ways. For instance, there's a case that is just trending in Enugu State now, at Ezago, where a small girl, either 11 years or less, went to the farm with the father, and they were coming back, and you know, some people abducted them, put her in a pit, collected the father's machete, and wanted to slaughter her, and she cried, raised her voice. Luckily, some villagers heard and rushed and were able to rescue her, only to find out that the person in charge of it is a prominent, they call him a prominent native doctor, billionaire native doctor, also somebody. And from there, the youths were agitated. They got to his house, you know, multi-places, multi-fashionable cars and all, only to discover that there are soak-away pits in that house where human beings were buried alive, including pregnant women. From where these ones do their rituals and even kidnapping and raise money, Then now we are linking it up with, there was a recent wedding that happened not long ago where the man was throwing wads of cash, bundles of cash at that wedding with his team. And his team, they were all having a white dress, but at the back of it is an inscription of a broken skull. So the youth were now calling that all those will need to be rounded up and investigated. And the youth insisted also that all the native doctors in Ezagu should be rounded up. Because of that, the native doctors in Ezagu went on rampage to demonstrate in the street that this also somebody is one of them, that the man is not a native doctor. That they say are traditional medicine healers, but this person is a criminal. That is not one of them. So you see that by the raising of the voice of a small girl, this spiral came up. That's one of the ways of expressing, but it's just to thank God. Some can raise their voice and not be nobody. It's just like a case of rape. If somebody is being raped or harassed, the person is expected to raise up his or her voice. Because I always say it's not just only women now. Men also face it. Raise voice, you can get assistance. So that's one of the ways. Either you shout, or you report through friends, or you go to police station, or you get in touch with any NGO or any human rights activist. This can help to leverage the situation and help you to get solution.
All right. You just said something very vital now. The issue of child abuse.
Yes.
Abuse generally is rampant.
It is.
And a lot of people cannot speak out. Because some persons will tell you, this is my child. It's none of your business. Some will tell you, this is my wife. I married her. Some will tell you, this is my husband. What's your business? Do an external body have the right to sue, all right, in place or instead of a person who is facing a particular human right abuse that cannot speak out?
For adults, the offended adult is expected to be the one suing. What other external bodies will do is to incident a report. For instance, report to NAPTIP, report to the police. They step in, do investigation, and then take up the issue of suing on behalf of the government when facts are established. So is to get in touch with these bodies. They will now leverage on behalf of the individual being violated. But for a child, a external person can sue for a child because, yes, a child by age, he doesn't even know what it takes. So an external person can sue on behalf of a child. But there are also some disturbing trends. There was a case that I witnessed where somebody was maltreating a young girl that is living with her. It's even the daughter. The mother was too reckless, and the neighbor went to NAPTIP and reported. And I was embarrassed for NAPTIP to say it should have come from the girl herself, any member of the family, not you. And it was shocking. Someone who has spent her resources to come and alert. So what NAPTIP was saying is that they needed the individual to pick out the individual to now stand for the complaint, not the external person. But I think that should not be the case, because this other person may not be able to talk, but someone has witnessed it. What NAPTIP, I expect NAPTIP to do is to step in from there, do investigation, and carry it off from there. Not that you are waiting for the person. Is it until the person is dead? So when you incident report with these government agencies or NGOs, they can leverage to get the person's position and take it off from there. But for young ones, external persons can't, because by their age. There was the case where a young boy was sick, was taken to the hospital. The parents happened to be Seventh-day Adventist members. And the doctor discovered that this boy will need blood transfusion in the course of surgery. Only for the parents to say, no, by reason of our religion and our faith, we're against blood transfusion. The Sabbatarians still insist on that till today. The doctor at that point said no. The doctor went ahead, got blood, transfused to the boy, did the surgery. The boy survived. The father and the mother went and sued the doctor for violating their religious rights. But the father and mother lost at the High Court, at the Court of Appeal, at the Supreme Court. It can seem, imagine that kind of a thing. And there are so many other cases coming up like that. Because the court said that this boy is not of age to take decision. is of age. So the doctor has a full right to decide for him in order to save his life.
Okay, just because of his profession.
Because of his profession. A lawyer can stand for a child. Okay, even an activist can stand for somebody. Not because it must not be a lawyer. A journalist can stand for somebody.
Especially when it has to do with the parents. Because like you talked to that lady, you give an instance.
Yes.
Of, it is the mother that was maltreating her. And you know, children like that could grow up with that bitterness and think that is what is
and vex it on the society.
And vex it on the society, or carry on the way the mother has treated her.
Because they will tell this is how I was raised.
This is how I was
believe
raised.
that every other person
should be raised that way.
You see.
Then coming to talk about that of the doctor. The doctor now went ahead to do that. But then, in a situation where the person is of age, the person can decide without even consulting the parents, right? All right, let's look at all of this. In all of this, does the federal government have any right to play in the enforcement of the right of the citizens? Because we've had people say things like, well, I expected the government to do this, but they didn't do it. I expected the government to do this, they didn't do it. And this is an infringement on my rights. At what does the government have, like we talked about the doctor now.
Yes.
The doctor's right, even though he had to do that for the boy, there is an extent that he can't go, all right, based on the profession or maybe what's obtainable in the law. In the area of the government, is there an extent to which the government can go, apart from civil society organizations and, of course, human rights activists? What of the government itself? We know we have human rights and complaint, human rights and public complaint commission, you know. But then, how do they come in?
For the government, there's the establishment we call the Legal Aid Council. The Legal Aid Council is a government agency that have a team of lawyers employed and paid by the government to stand for the rights of citizens that could not afford legal services. All right? For instance, even in the stations, if you can't get a lawyer, the police station, which is an arm of the government, arm of the executive, is supposed to get you a lawyer from the legal aid to come to stand for you. It is said it is done free. Yeah, because they are being paid by the government. So they will come to represent you. The government uses lawyers under the legal aid to stand for indigent citizens who cannot afford the services of a lawyer, apart from the Public Complaints Commission, National Human Rights Commission, that because those are government agencies. National Human Rights Commission can stand for you. You know, Public Complaints Commission can investigate your matter and ensure that you get justice.
Barrister, the process to this thing is what we're talking about.
That's the challenge.
The process, because sometimes it might be a matter of urgency. And the process to these things, before you even submit file, before you move from one office to the other, because we've had where people go to Public Complaint Commission and their case linger for as long as only God knows when. So in a case of emergency, when something needs urgent attention, do they also have preferences for cases like that?
The civil service, the public service in Nigeria is bedeviled by lackadaisical attitude. We are suffering that presently. Abroad is also. Abroad, you see them operate with dispatch. The same setups we have here, but because of how the environment have been structured generally, even legal process in Nigeria is still sluggish. We still have that problem. Cases lingering in the court. Abroad is also. Abroad, you see where 7 days, 14 days, cases are dispatched. And you know, we need actually to get to such a time when we have a fastened legal process. In criminal matters in Nigeria, you know, with the coming of some innovations, criminal matters move a bit faster now, and it will be better to even be faster than it is. Okay? So it is this kind of bottlenecks we have, bureaucratic challenges, your case move from one desk to the other, people being lousy about their duties, that makes it the way it is. If our society advances further, we come to a point where these things are done quickly. And when it is done like that, it's better for us and better for the economy. Once the justice system is not delayed, the economy advances faster. Because other people from other countries want to do business with you. Knowing that if there's any issue to resolve, it will not waste time. So it is that delay that we have as an albatross that we are contending with, which is quite painful. So that's why some people may say, okay, I will not go to Public Complaints Commission, I will not go to National Human Rights Commission. So maybe they look for an NGO, human rights body, that can help them to pursue their matter.
Oh, all right, Barrister, there is this understanding that legal practitioners also do what we call pro bono. How is it like? How can you have access to pro bonos, and of course, is it obtainable? Do we really have it in the society? Because a lot of people feel now that you need to have so much to even get the services of a lawyer if your right is being violated.
You know, yeah, pro bono, yes, pro bono is there. I've done quite some. But you see, pro bono is for the indigent, not for a person that can afford. It doesn't mean you must afford the whole thing a lawyer needs, because to even prepare your matter and file in the court is involving a lot of money. To prepare the documents needed, this bundle of documents, you know, for you to get that, is it to go to business center to do that? You pay for it. You go to file it, you pay for it. All right? When it's assigned, you pay for the service to the other party. So all these things are monetarily involving, you know, expenses. So, and this lawyer has a family, dependents. He has old people that, you know, here we don't even have established agencies that take care of our elderly ones. You take care of your father, your father-in-law, your mother-in-law, the grandparents, and the other dependents, all on your head, with your wife and children, or your husband and children, and all these ones. You have all these on your neck. You go to the same market with everybody. So if you don't have an income, the same people will laugh at you. So it is, pro bono is for those that you know that really, from all intents and purposes, they can't afford. We have such. There was a case I was involved in where a young man, an artist, so my colleague in the chamber where we were was handling the matter and had to take me along. This artist, but then it was Nikon. He used to display his artworks around Nikon, you know. But his problem was that, you know, there are these young men that always want to have a relation with ladies. So that was his challenge. And he was involved with this lady, and the lady demanded for some money. She said, my artworks were bought by people, they have not paid. So be patient with me. December was coming. The lady thought he wanted to play her. And this lady also was befriending a police officer. So went and told the police officer that she wants the police officer to help her to deal with this young man. And the police officer was cross and strange in behavior as to go to hang, you know, an allegation of murder against this young man. Yes, the matter was filed at, it was this life camp area. But they had no facts. The next thing is to change it to rape and bring it to the High Court, Maitama. The young man was kept in Kuje prison. When he was even granted bail, there was nobody to stand for his bail, because that was during a Rufai period, that during that demolitions, all the contacts he had were no longer there, and people were not there. So he was languishing in jail for 4 years. Most of the time, they are not even bringing up his case. So my colleague was handling this matter, and I was following him, and eventually we had to, you know, bring up the thing before the judge, former chief judge of the ACT, Justice Bello, but then he was in court 3. And, you know, eventually he had to dismiss or strike out that case for want of diligence.
That's after 4 years.
4 years.
4 years in prison for something you don't do.
Yes. So he was set free. No, he was not paying us. It was freely done. But we also had to file his human rights action. So there are so many like that. There's a way some people behave which is too bad. You feel that somebody offended you and you go and cook up a cock and bull story, allegation, hang it on the person. There are many languishing in correctional centers, the prisons these days, without having committed anything. But because somebody wants to intimidate, or somebody believes that you have power, and they are there, which is most unfair. That worsens the state or the society. So there are many lawyers who take up the cases of people like this. And there's provision in our laws for our judges once in a while to visit these correctional centers, review these cases, and discharge the ones that have no cases against them. It's done from time to time. But most of the time, those who are discharged are just few, considering the total number involved. So there are pro bono practice by lawyers. In fact, Legal Practitioner Privileges Committee has a provision in the Act that before you can become a senior advocate on Nigeria, you must have done so and so number of pro bono free services as one of the things you have to file. So it's in operation. But you see, it's just a tip of the iceberg. There are many cases where people are involved without having access.
All right. Well, that's pathetic as a matter of fact. But then, let's look at one or two issues from this. This is just one out of the whole many people. When you lie on someone, all right, and the persons go to jail for 4 years, like you say, and the judge now, in his good judgment, strikes out the case. What happened to the person who has formulated this issue that sent this person, the case that sent this person to prison, after being discovered that there are no evidences and it's baseless? What happened to these people?
The way it is done is that the person lied against, the honor, the responsibility lies on him or her to now bring up a case against the person that lied. Perjury is a very serious offense in law. Perjury, lying against somebody and all that. So for the person that is affected to bring up a case in court against the person who did that, and once you establish it and prove it, that person goes in for it. So I have done that. But some will tell you, well, I leave it to God because of the resources. The time it will take them, the money it will take them, they decide not to do anything about it. But those who can weather the storm get justice at the end of the day. You can get the person, prosecuted on a criminal charge. You can also proceed in terms of pleading your human rights and make claims for damages. You can get that.
But what happens if the judge, all right, as a good and patriotic Nigerian who has human feeling, and the lawyers who are aware of this case, what if, can they on behalf, is it possible to file a case on behalf of the person, the victim, or maybe just advise the person, don't worry, because of resources, we will be in charge of this, and the pro bono, we are going to do it in form of pro bono. The judges are aware, they will get you lawyers that will make you fight this. Don't you think by that the society will be eradicated of these rascals, people who actually come out to lie against people because they have the well-to-do? We've had cases where someone will say, well, I didn't do anything, but because his brother is an army officer, his brother is a police officer, his brother is this, they just brought people to pick me. Or maybe because he has somebody, I had an issue maybe with one of his equipment, and he knows the right thing, but because he felt I am this and that, he just went and reported to maybe the soldier or the police to just victimize the person. Can't anything be done by the authorities, maybe the federal government, the judge, or maybe associations set up by the lawyers, maybe like the Legal Aid or maybe even the NBA.
Yeah, you have just mentioned it right. What the judge can do is to guide you to the Legal Aid Council for them to take up your matter. There are this statement that the court is not a Father Christmas. The court will not give you what you didn't ask for. You are entitled to it, you didn't ask for it. The court will not just give it to you.
What if they don't know?
No, there's a way the society is established. If a judge is handling a matter, it is what the litigants bring before the judge that the judge looks into. The judge is not allowed on his own to pick up an issue. If he must raise an issue on his own, he must alert the two parties to address him on that. Otherwise, it will be like doing something in secret. And they will quickly petition against the judge that this is not what I brought before the court. How is the judge coming about it? Because it can also give room for abuses. Some judges can abuse responsibility. Because as a judge, while handling a matter, you also discover loopholes based on your position. But when you discover these loopholes, if you feel that you need to raise any of them, you must bring it to the knowledge of these two parties for them to address you on that before you can rightly rule. Otherwise, it will work against you. So, in such ones where the judge discovers that, okay, this person, somebody had done something, the judge will refer you to like a legal aid council for them to help you to put up your case and bring it up. Not that the judge will just jump into it. It is said that the judge is not allowed to get into the arena of conflict, so that the dust that conflict raises will not be clouded or cover his eyes.
All right, well, that's well spoken. But then, is he going to be freed from the legal counsel? Are they going to give the person lawyer? Because the reason why we're talking about this is because we have a lot of Nigerians that don't have what it takes to go to court.
Yes.
A lot of people are running from cases. Hey, no, I don't want. Please. Whether they are right, whether they are wrong, whether their human right is being infringed or stepped upon or violated, they just let it go because they don't want trouble. A lot of people look at police cases, court cases as trouble that everyone is avoiding. But the elite, the rich people who claim to have money, will want to victimize and humble these average Nigerians all the time. Is it possible for the legal counsel to say, well, this is what you need to do and this is what you need to do when you run to them, and probably give you lawyers to fight this case to the conclusion?
Legal aid counsel does that. Though I know that in practice, while they're handling your case, along the line, there have been practical cases where the lawyers are assigned. We tell you they don't have transportation, but that would be minimal something maybe. They won't be charging you like a lawyer employed, You may need to once in a while facilitate their movement, logistics,
their cars and all
good.
Of that.
Logistics, such things do come up, but not as in full-blown case where you got a lawyer engaged. So legal aid counsel does that. And Human Rights Commission, though, because of the delays, does issues like that. Public Complaints Commission. Now, judges, like I said, by the provision of our acts and laws, also have the right. For instance, Democracy Day is coming now, June 12th, instead of today being 29th. Okay, today is so. When such events are coming, or even some of these celebrations, Easter, Christmas, Salah, and all, judges can visit correctional centers, prisons, to review cases of individuals who are detained unjustly. Once they get all the details, you see that the judges discharge, so many of these people, set them free. That's the way, one of the ways they intervene. In fact, the Administration of Criminal Justice Act, not a provision that chief magistrates, judges, are expected to visit police stations at intervals of time, maybe monthly or so, to check, to make sure there are no abuses of human rights affecting individuals in detention. and also visit all these correctional centers to ensure that people are not unjustly detained or harassed. These things are there. The more they are being leveraged upon, handled effectively, the better the society, goes in a smooth way. Abuses are even getting more pronounced now. Different forms. They're getting more pronounced. I don't know. The society that is supposed to be advancing appears to be regressing. People are getting more rude and more wicked against fellow human beings. So there's need for a facilitated approach towards these services to really help out the society. But another funny aspect of the society is that things are also getting too expensive. Every aspect. So most of the time, the people that can come to stand for people are also contending with loads of financial challenges. It's a whole gamut of issues. But people must raise their voices, get in touch with the necessary establishments. People must contact their neighbors. People must alert. Information is key. It's like the use of Freedom of Information Act, applying for some information to get from offices. These things need to be, facilitated in order to help the society on issues of affecting human rights.
All right, we're trying to round up now, but then this human right violations, does it have implications on, because all what we are doing is nation building.
Yes.
And at least to make the place habitable. Now, does it have this rights violation that we've talked about at different levels? Does it have implications on national development?
On a serious note, for instance, I don't know what is the problem with some Nigerian police officers. A bus will be on transit. They stop the bus and bring, especially students, I don't know what is their attachment, bring out these ones and start searching their phones. And we have seen, one day score a huge amount of money, they tell the person, we are going to frame you up, that and that, unless they tell the person to a POS machine and all that, and they start. I mean, where is it coming from? So, when that happens, these young ones are wounded, and they are bound, some of them will bounce back on the society. And you never know, it's like throwing a stone in the market. You never know who it will fall upon. Some will descend on the police, some will descend on innocent individuals. Look at what just happened in Kano this week, that a young man, is a motorcycle rider, so was picked up by the police in Rano local government and kept in detention, and eventually he died in detention. So the youths were agitated and they went and set the police station ablaze and killed the DPO. Yes, and all that. These are the effects of abuse of rights. So it can lead to something you can never imagine. In fact, one is that if a person reports incidents a matter at the police station, the police should be fair and just enough. When you look at it and go that someone is not wrong, are you not supposed to set the person free? But the police will never do that. They will keep you at the counter until you come and bail yourself. Does it mean that every case reported at the station, somebody must go behind the counter and start looking for bail? Is it not when you investigate and go that
even the bail that they said is free? I don't think bail is free in Nigeria.
Never, in the stations, it has never been.
But they said it's free.
They're supposed to, but they will not do that because they tell you that we are still investigating, and so you have to stay with us until we finish investigation. And most of these investigations are interminable, unending. So because you don't want to just stay there for a long time, you want to get yourself free. So, okay, since you want to be free while you're investigating, you do something, which is not supposed to be. This thing, that's why,
But can you sue a police station for collecting bail from you? Is it a suable offense?
It is, but you see, why people don't sue most of the time is that there's no document showing that money is changed hands. And they will not even allow you to do transfer. They must insist it should be cash. Or they refer you to a POS outside the station. So, if you pick that information from the POS, whose name is there? So because they do all these things to dodge what you can use as evidence, you know, except maybe somebody, and they will not even allow you to use your phone as to record what is going on as at the time it's happening. So these are the things that are clause in the progress, in the legal progress to allow you to have decided to sue. So the violation by government agencies worsen the issue in the society, because it makes people to react against the society, against the government agencies, because of lack of sincerity. People now decide to, you know, I think it was Shehu Kuti, one of the sons of Anik Kuti, that said that the first kidnappers for Ranzo in Nigeria are Nigerian police. And what was he talking about? This issue of once you get to the station, you must pay money to be bailed. He said, is it not ransom? Someone may laugh at it, but that's truth. So the police have been kidnapping for ransom by insisting on collecting money before releasing somebody, before other people now started doing it in their own way. That's how the thing has spiral effect. That's how it has. Like politicians who go to intimidate people, all right? By the time the people now start acting, eventually the politician also is not free. That's how it had the damaging effect of all these things.
All right. Thank you very much, Barrister. It has been Barrister Alexander Ogbo. He's a legal practitioner, and of course, he is a chartered mediator and conciliator, and of course, he's a human rights activist. He's also a notary public, and of course, he's been able to give us a lot of information this morning concerning the violation of human rights and what you do about it, where to seek redress, and how not to infringe on other people's rights. Many thanks for joining us on Global Morning Discussion today.
It's quite a pleasure to always have an opportunity like this. I'm most grateful.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right, this is going to be the size of this discussion. Global Morning continues after this break. Stay with us.
know that global television can be watched in Nigeria and all over the world?
Download the Global TV Nigerian mobile app for Android and iOS devices to watch global television real-time from around the world. What are you waiting for?
Start downloading and stay connected to Global Television.
We begin to tie it down now on the program this morning, but the assessment of the scorecard of President Bola Tinubu government has just begun. So for the next few days, that's going to be the focal point of our discussion here on the program. We'll look at sector by sector. Of course, there are people who are also very concerned, naturally, about the power sector in particular. To cut this government some slack, we're saying much efforts, appreciable, commendable efforts made in that direction. Renewable energy, rural electrification agency doing their own bit as well, all right, as a component, so to speak, of the entire Ministry of Power, to also ensure that the rural areas, all right, are not cut off from power as well. But overall, we understand that as far as power is concerned, I mean, you don't have an option other than to just ensure that it's addressed. Why? SMEs, for example, can't survive without energy. So how are we going to address that? Especially when we realize that the bulk of the, if you like, mechanism that drives the economy is the totality of the medium and small-scale enterprises that are dispersed across the country. Today we have them in millions. So how are we empowering them if, first and foremost, we're not addressing the issues around power? Then, of course, we talk about infrastructure. This morning, my colleague and I were talking about insecurity in Benue, for example, and he talked about roads. These are very important, not just within states or intra-city, but across the country. Yes, Nigeria has one of the finest road networks in the world, or at least across Africa, but how motorable are those roads? It's one thing to have the network, brilliant, but how do you make those roads more motorable? Highways, for example. A time there was in this country when citizens enjoyed traveling by road, not necessarily because a good number of them could not afford to buy air tickets, but it was fun. Family trips and what have you, by road. But today, that's a different ballgame because there are two concerns that strike terror in the hearts of Nigerians. One is the motorability or otherwise of the road. The second is insecurity. So these are going to be, form the basis on which we are going to continue to assess the government of President Bola Tinubu. And of course, we also need to do that for the subnationals. For example, this morning, we have thought time would allow us look at Enugu, for example, where you have Governor Peter Mba, and see what's happening there in Enugu. What are they doing differently? Incidentally, just to put the record straight, Dr. Peter Mba took over from former Governor Ugwai, and we need to know what exactly has happened differently away from the previous government under Mr. Ugwai that had done 8 years as well. So these are conversations we want to be having going forward.
Well, I think that's very important because the people also need to know what is happening. I think another one is the president, you remember, said some time back that people in public offices need to go to the media and speak to the people, the ministers, the senator. Just let the people know what you are doing. I think this is time for you to go to the drawing board and see how far you've come these 2 years. Governors, like my colleague just said, we're supposed to look at Enugu State today, but then other states too. So we'll be bringing you all of this in our subsequent programs and our bulletins.
Great. So you can keep your fingers crossed knowing that we're going to be inviting analysts and even well, the newsmakers themselves within this government and those in the opposition, so we can have a bit of balance and fairness in the way we push the conversations here on the program. But we're also going to look at states, because we now seem to have a culture where there's so much of focus on the federal government. Governors were elected just the same way the president was elected. States have commissioners just the same way we have federal ministers. So there's got to be that balance as to who is supposed to do what. For example, we need to look at it from also the standpoint of the different lists, the exclusive lists, the concurrent lists, and of course the residual lists. Who is doing what and how well are they doing it? If you're a governor in a state, for example, in what state did you meet the healthcare system, all right, within your domain? And what have you done the last 2 years to improve that? Issues around child and maternal health, for example, issues around empowerment for young girls, and then of course you want to talk about infrastructure, you want to talk about things around empowerment and the economy and revenue generation. Governors have a lot of bragging rights when it comes to revenue generation. It's quick for you to see a governor who says, well, when I came in, IGRO was 1.7 billion, but within these last 2 years, we have pushed it to 6.5 billion. But beyond those numbers, we need to talk about as well in what practical ways your government, as a governor, is impacting the lives of your people for good.
Especially that some of the monies from the subsidies now being channeled
to the states.
Right. So a lot is expected from the states. So we need to dissect what's going on at the state level too, just the way all eyes is on the federal government. And that's why we keep talking about orientation. The people need to know who to ask questions per time. So all of this you will get to know on global television.
Right. Turns out that's what we're living it today, everyone. We can't appreciate you enough for investing a part of your time with us this Thursday morning. Again, just to establish that the views of our guests on all of our programs, including here on Global Morning, are their respective opinions. I'm Muyi Agmofugbe.
I'm Ramsey Enoch Agbo.
Welcome to Global Morning.
The death toll from flooding.
Most time our politicians just bring in policies too. For sure.
Incidentally, we have several more stories.
The legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rates as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call a police station, before they even leave, they'll take permission from
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
The struggle, the ASU strike.
Minister of Education volunteered and said, give me 2 weeks.
It was a life. The president never gave me any deadline.